Welcome back. This is Dan Havey with CF Ninja Hacks, and today we're going to talk about something that everyone's talking about, and that is how you can just magically go into these AI engines. You can go into Claude, you can go into ChatGPT, and you're just going to say, oh, hey, write me some code for ClickFunnels. Problem is, it doesn't understand ClickFunnels, and what it's going to give you is standard HTML code. So what I did here in this example, for this over here on the right is ChatGPT. On the left here is Claude. And it says, I just put in here in both, give me code to put the following text on a web page. But to be able to detect the year and swap out the given date, start with copyright symbol and then some text at the end. So basically, we're looking at down in a footer. You're going to have a copyright year in there, so it'll be 2025 right now. And we want that to be able to automatically change so that every year, the 1st of January, we don't have to go in and change that copyright date. It just does it automatically. And so I got an output from both of them. And you're going to see here is the output for Claude. And of course, like I said, it gives you everything in standard HTML. So we start off with the doc type here, HTML language equals English. Then here we have our head code on the page. It puts in some meta stuff here, some title. It gives us the style, and it gives us a style for the body, the content, and then also the footer down at the bottom. Then down on this part here, we have the body itself, and we have the content section. We have the footer section right here, and then we have the JavaScript code inside the script tags right there to make this happen. Now with ChatGPT over here on the right, very similar, did not put in all the same stuff, did not put in the style, but we have the head, we have the body, we have a footer, and then we have some script right here. The script over here at ChatGPT is actually a little bit better than what we have over here on the left. But so now you come in here and you see this, and you don't necessarily understand code. So what you're going to want to do is you're going to grab a hold of this whole thing here. You're going to copy that, and you're going to come into your funnel. Now I have a funnel page open here, and we're just going to go into the code editor itself. And we're going to come into the footer here, and what we're going to do is we're going to come down here a little bit because you're seeing the end result. I left that on the screen there, so I didn't have to type it all back in again. So here we're going to put in what code we have, and we're going to notice here there's no CSS, there's no nothing else on the page, and although I have this element here, there is nothing in that element either. So we are going to save this, and we are going to go to our live page, and we're going to see what happens. And right now, we're going to probably see absolutely nothing because that's what I got the first time, because it starts throwing errors here. So now let's just reload this page and just see if it does happen to put something on the page. And we still got nothing there. So now let's come back into our code. So we already know that this is not going to work right here. So let's take that all back out. And what we're going to do, oops, I think I messed something up there. So let's do this again. Let's go, come on, up to the top here, and we'll delete this out so we don't get any syntax errors. And then we'll come down here, we'll go into our custom code, JavaScript HTML box, and we're going to paste this now in here. So we will save that, and now it should show up on the page. There we go. But the problem, as we saw, as we were looking at this here, is it gives us all new head code. Well, guess what? In ClickFunnels, head code already exists. It gives us new body tags. That already exists. The HTML tags, that already exists. We don't need any of that inside of our page. We also don't need this div here for the content. And frankly, we don't need the footer either. But we're going to leave that in for right now. Whether we had used this script over here or this script, they both would work exactly the same. So let's come into our content here. And the first thing we're going to say is, okay, well, we don't need any of this up here at the top before that style tag, which means we don't need this head tag down here either. Now inside of the style itself, we don't really need anything for the body or the content because we're going to come down here and we're going to remove the body and the content. So we can take that out of there, and we also want to take out this HTML tag at the bottom there as well. So now all we have left is the footer and the script and the styling. And we'll take out the body and that. And now we look at our footer, And we say, well, do we really need the footer in here as a style? The answer is no. So let's just take this out of here, but we're going to copy it out. We're going to go into our code itself. Let's close that. We're going to come into the CSS, and we're going to drop that footer in here. And let's just clean that up a little bit. And we will bounce back out of here. We'll come back into the custom JavaScript box, and we can remove off this style now because we moved that CSS into the custom CSS on the page. So now what we have left here is we have our footer and we have our script. So let's save this right here, and then let's reload the page and let's see what we have. And there we go. So now it's working just fine. We have that on our page. So first off, you had to get rid of 90% of the code that was written, and then you had to make sure you put it into a custom JavaScript HTML box. And of course, you're going to want to put this wherever your footer is going to be, down at the bottom of the page. I just have it sitting here just for our purposes. But let's say you don't want to go through all that trouble of writing that code, getting it from ChatGPT. Now, this is a very simple example, but let's say you want to actually build this yourself inside of ClickFunnels. And maybe you want to have this be inside of a paragraph somewhere, and you just want one singular word being changed out all the time. Because here's where one of the problem comes in, is you see here there's really basically no styling on this element. So let's just inspect this element, and let's see what we have on here for styling. We got our p tag right here. Let's come down, and it should be using, standard serif, sans serif font right there, 14 pixels. Now this is what is set in the browser itself, or in ClickFunnels, either at the level of ClickFunnels or at the level of the browser, but this is not set by you. So if you want that to look differently, you would have to then close this out. You'd have to come into your CSS, and where we already have our footer right here, because this is within our footer class, or our footer right there, that footer tag. And so we're going to say inside of here, we want to do what? And so we'd have to say, let's just say we want a font size of 32 pixels. Oops. And we want a font family. Let's say we want Cinzel. And we could put in backup fonts and stuff if we want, but that's not what this is about. And well, let's just leave it at that. So now let's save this, and we will reload the page, and we will go there, and there we go. Now it did it properly. Any other formatting of that you'd have to do. But again, what I started to say before is that if you had this inside of a paragraph, that may not be so simple, because really all we want to affect is this right here. Just that number is really what we want to affect. So what we're going to do instead on here is we are going to come back out of here, and we're going to do this, and we're going to come to my layout, and we're going to show this headline element I have on the page. And so we're going to click on this and take a look at what I have going on in here. So I have the set to Cinzel, 2.6 rem should be 26 pixels. So I set my base M to 10. So we're going to have that. So now we have it built onto the page. And now let me click out of here again. Let's say we want this to be bold. So we're going to make that bold. And you're noticing here I put in the year 2000 just so we can see the difference. And then I put a strike through right there. But also we're going to come over here, and let's say we got that icon there, and we want a little more room there between it and the other. And let's say we want to change the icon color. Oh, for some reason we want to make our icon color red, let's say. I don't know why you would, but again, this isn't just for a date. What I'm trying to show you here is when you come into ClickFunnels, if you use the native elements and then sprinkle a little bit of code over the top, you can use all of the features built right into ClickFunnels. So what we want to do is come into this code right here, and we want to delete this out of here. So let's just take that out. I don't need that in there at all. In fact, what we can do is we can just remove this element right here from the page completely. And we're going to save this. Now what we're going to do is we're going to go in and look at a little bit of code that you already have seen, and I had it commented out. That's what the little arrow and the dashes mean. And all we're going to say here is we're going to say constant year, or constant. We're going to create a constant of the year. We're going to take it off of the new date, and we're going to get full year. So let me show you where that came from. That was the only thing in this code that was worth anything, was this line right there, and you had the same line right here. So that is just standard JavaScript code in order to return the year that it currently is. So that's what this is here. And then all I'm going to say is I got an ID of footer year and strike. So let me show you where that comes from. So right here, set up this element, and we got to go into there. So this element right here, I gave the CSS of footer year. I gave it the ID, of footer year. So we're going to copy that because we're going to need that in a second, and we're going to put that in right there. And this up here, of course, we don't need that anymore. So we're going to have footer year, and we're going to put in a little couple of curly braces there. We're going to come down to our footer code, and then we have a space and strike. Now, why would we do that? Well, the reason why is what we're going to get is going to look like this. Okay, so it's going to be a strike through right there, and when I show it to you on the, well, in fact, let me just show it to you on the live page right now, because this should be working just fine. Let's go in here. Let's reload the page. There we go. So now we have our strike through right there, and it made it 2025. But now let's inspect this element. And you're going to see right here, we have the strike. So up here we have, where is it right there? We have this headline element, and we have the ID of footer year, and then I put in a space to signify that look for a child element with the tag of strike. And the nice thing about using the tag of strike, instead of saying let's change all of the text inside of this footer year ID, instead of changing all the text in there, it will, because we're using just the strike, it will inherit the CSS of its parent elements. If we were to come in and say replace the entire thing, then it probably would not inherit it, and we would have to then put all the CSS back in again. But in this case here, it will do it just fine, except what you're seeing here is it still has a strike through on it. So we're going to come back into our CSS code, and we're just going to put in one simple line here of text decoration of none. Should do the trick on it, and it did not. Let me see here. Do I have to do important? Well, let's just check it on a live page, and if that doesn't work, I will pause for a second. Okay, what I forgot to do was I need to put in the same thing up here, because when we called the in the footer code here, when we called this, we said footer year space strike, meaning the child element of strike. And so the same thing here, we got to put in the space signifying the child element, and then you see it working just fine there. Now let's see if we need that important or not. We may or may not. And I have none here. Let's see what happens if we put in unset. It does exact same thing. So we can save that. We can reload the page. And there you go. So what we have here now is the ability to not have to use ChatGPT, or in this case here, use ChatGPT to get an idea. Now this kind of JavaScript you can look up, and you can find that anywhere, that little line of code. Just say, ask, you could ask ChatGPT, you could ask any AI, you could ask Google. Just say, using JavaScript, how do I return the year, the current year? And it will give you that code right there. And then all we do is we use a native ClickFunnels element, because we can use all of, again, another nice thing here is, so let's say this is, like I said, in the middle of a paragraph, or it is in a series of boxes that have all kinds of padding and whatnot around it. It's just easier to build everything here, and then, like I said, sprinkle a little bit of code over the top of it and make it do what you want, instead of having to come up with this kind of monstrosity that really, in the end, it does what you want it to do, but it's, in my mind, much more problematic than it's worth. So that's all I have for today. If you have any questions, just let me know.